What is there to dominate if everything is always the same? Why would you ever aspire to be anything else on the hierarchy? You know, you need chaos. You need you need it. That's Men are created best when they have to respond to it.
You need innovation. You don't need chaos. I think you need innovation. I don't think you need chaos. I think that elements sometimes create chaos without us trying to apply it because of nature. And I believe also that spirituality is structure. It's not chaotic at all, actually. Emotions are chaotic, which is why the pairing of the male and the female is so important. You can't birth anything without that connection. And I digress.
The female menstrual cycle is chaotic, but it's also aligned with the moon. But the hormones that we go through every single week is chaotic. We are not the same person, right? And that when I say that, I'm not saying chaos like unstable. I mean consistently changing.
Well, that's just flow. There's a
fluidity. I think men are the opposite. You guys actually are really
chaos is the lack of structure.
Yes.
There is from what we know of nature and the universe, all things in the universe is of structure.
Is that true?
Absolutely. Yeah. Every single thing of nature is in structure.
Then if everything is I agree. But are you saying that there are laws to nature, or everything is organized? Because
there's 100% laws to there's 100% laws of nature. 100%.
I agree. However, human beings respond to those laws differently from other animals, don't you think?
No.
So if there's a drought in here, we're all part of the same tribe, and there's a drought, right?
Yeah.
The way in which the lions, the elephants, and our tribe survive will be different. It will create
it wouldn't be different. Everyone is going to go to the new area. They're going to find a new area as to where they can thrive. The only people, or the only things or people that will stay there are the ones that can't make it on the trip. So then they will have no choice but to evolve, which is also a sense of the structure of evolution.
Beautiful. I love that you said that. But it's the men who create that structure. It doesn't just happen naturally.
It does happen naturally.
If I'm pregnant,
even if we look at the ocean, right? There's different levels of the ocean. So if you go beneath sea level or whatever it is, you now have a completely different species of fish that lives there that can only survive down at that level.
Agreed. Question.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
It's I didn't mean to cut you off, Ann. Good evening, everybody. Let's take that everything we say is true. The dynamics between men and women. I really come up and ask Willie a couple questions, but I'm gonna hold this for the whole panel. Now you just said everything has its own nature, and I think she didn't pinpoint. We're one of the only species on this planet to have choice. So, if that's the case, I lived in Florida for a while. In the ecosystem, they went and tried to make things to fit the lifestyle of the terrain, but it changed everything. But if you was not to maintain that ecosystem, it would go back to the natural order of things. So, in this case, I hear these arguments between men and women, who doing this and who doing that, who doing this, and it started to make me think. If we are the leaders and we are the ones that are in control, make the rules, build the buildings, make the technology and everything else, what happened to this ecosystem and this dynamics between men and women? If we're men who are supposed to be in control, then I think the new generation is doing what the old generation did back in the 60s and 70s and probably some of the early 80s. we put too much blame on the white people, and I think y'all putting too much blame on the women. Because, number one, if I leave parents in the house to take care and be in control of the children, and I come back 20 years later, the children are controlling the parents, who is guilty in this? And so, with all this power that we have as men, and one of the things I had to really focus on, and it even was hard for me to say, usually when you're in a war, you have spoils of war. And usually the women are the spoils of the war. But I'm starting to feel like men are starting to act like spoils of war in Western society. So my question is, if we go say everything that we say in these panels and these discussions, let's start asking the question, how did it happen under our watch of men?
Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I don't know. I think even in war, men were still the slaves of the spoils of war. In most cases, when a tribe was invaded or overran, in most cases they may have essayed the women, but they also deleted them in the same sense, because we're not going to mix our blood, our race, with what we feel is inferior. In most cases, we're going to take the men and have them as slaves to do our dirty work, to build our towns and shit and things of that nature. I think that was more so the approach that was taken in that case, if we're not considering the Western approach of it, I guess.
Even though with that, this question still is on the table.
And
how did it happen? Well, how did these things continue to get so bad in 2025 without us having a complete look at ourselves as men? If you defeated in a war and you continuously to stay in that camp and you continuously to be under someone else's rule, how could your woman ever look at you as the person to look up as when you go to the back door and get your money from the same person that she gets her money from?
I think that's the oversimplification.
Exactly. No, but that's the point. If I depend on you survival, but you yourself are a dependent, in the metaphor that he used, the child has now become the household lead. In the structure, the form, the natural order gets disrupted. And then she starts thinking she can compete with you. I think one thing to consider in what he's saying is, what happened to men who held order, who held form? What happened to the freedom of men? And women naturally feel safe with those types of men.
I never seen a woman in my life who had a strong man to ever say, I don't need a man.
Come on.
Never in my life.
And respectfully,
No. You know what, Trigger Mike, you can say that, but y'all the one is living in this troubled time, and I'm watching it, and I'm seeing it. I've been living long enough where I have seen change. Y'all only been living up until you see problems.
Well, respect.
We don't depend on each other for survival anymore, where we used to.
Is it even reasonable to consider men to be leaders and not take responsibility? Does that even make sense for men to not take responsibility?
How are you a leader if you can't be responsible?